On Tech News Today, the new Nexi are here. We'll give you all the hands-on details. Plus, teenagers' social networking habits are probably different than you think. And we'll tell you about the fast food chain that turned their Twitter account over to a chicken. It's all coming up next on Tech News Today.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Monday, October 19th, 2015. This episode is brought to you by Prosper. Prosper is a peer-to-peer lending marketplace that connects people who are looking to borrow money with those who have money to lend. Visit prosper.com/TNT to apply for a loan now. And by Gazelle, the online marketplace for buying and selling used gadgets. Shop from a variety of certified pre-owned electronics or trade one in for cash. Give a new life to a used device. Visit Gazelle.com today. Tech News Today is the show where we talk about the tech news with the journalists who report it. My name is Mike Elgan. Our co-anchor today is CNET.com editor-in-chief Lindsey Turrentine. Hey, Lindsey, how you doing?
Hi, Mike. Good morning.
Good morning to you. And today is a good day for anybody who's got a phone that works with Project Fi and wants to get in on Project Fi. Project Fi, of course, is Google's MVNO service. And they're opening up for 24 hours to sort of commemorate the existence of the new Nexi smartphones. Now, is this available to just the people who have these phones, Lindsey?
Yeah, it's available to the new owners of the Nexus 5X and the 6P. It's also available to existing Nexus 6 owners. And if you have your own device already, you can basically just request a SIM card from Google. And if not, you can actually sign up for the Project Fi project and buy a phone through Google, and you can pay for it over time.
Sounds like a way to kickstart the sales of the hardware because, of course, 24 hours, and after that you have to like sort of get in line to get in on Project Fi, as far as I know. So it should be moving a lot of phones today.
They should be, and you know, Google needs to move a lot of phones in order to work on Project Fi, right? Like they need this compatible hardware to really get this project going, and so they have a lot of interest in moving those units.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is for Americans only. It's $20 a month for voice and text, and then they charge $10 for each gigabyte after that. My son is actually using Project Fi. He's currently in Barcelona. He went to Fez, Morocco, and he said it's been great to travel abroad using Project Fi. So you heard it.
That's good news.
Directly from a user. Well, let's jump into our news, Lindsey. Google announced its new line of Nexus smartphones on September 29th, but now reviewers have gotten their hands on them, and the embargo on these reviews was lifted this morning. Raymond Wong is a product analyst at Mashable.com and joins us to tell us about his reviews. Welcome to the show, Raymond.
Hi, welcome.
So glad you're here. No, well, I'm glad you're here one way or the other. Everybody's welcome. Yep. Tell us about the new, let's start with the smaller one. Tell us about the new Nexus 5X.
So we've got the Nexus 5X here. This is made by LG on the back. It's a 5.2-inch Android 6.0 Marshmallow smartphone. So it's running the newest version, or I should move this like this, the newest version of Android. The best part is that it has a new fingerprint sensor on the back, and it works really quickly. I think it's even faster than the iPhone Touch ID sensor. You just tap it and it's unlocked. No pressing required. The screen is really sharp. It's full HD. You've got a Qualcomm Snapdragon 808 processor, 2 gigabytes of RAM. Overall, the performance has been really, really great. I haven't noticed any real bugs. It's really smooth. It's fluid. And the cameras are really great. You've got a 12 megapixel camera on the back, which is great in low light. And you've got a 5 megapixel camera on the front for selfies. Doesn't do 4K, but full HD is plenty for a lot of people.
So, Raymond, you have been playing with this and comparing it a little bit to the iPhone camera. What's your take on these two cameras? I know the camera's a big deal on this phone. Camera's
a big deal, mainly because Nexus smartphones and most Androids up until this year have had really lackluster or poor cameras, and they've just been lagging behind compared to the iPhone. I compared the 5X to the iPhone 6S, so the newest iPhone, and they're both 12 megapixel back cameras, and I wasn't expecting anything. I was iPhone is obviously the reigning champion of the most popular smartphone camera, and I wasn't sure what to expect. And after I took all the shots, turns out that it's pretty capable and on par with the iPhone 6S. Neither is actually a front runner. Neither pulled ahead, but I'm just so glad that the Nexus finally has a very capable camera.
Yeah, that was one of the weak spots in some of their previous lines. The phone was great, but the camera was horrible, and so it was a mixed bag. Now, you mentioned that the fingerprint reader on the 5X is super fast, and this is not a button, right? And well, first of all, I'd like to point out that you said that it's comparable, faster even, possibly than the one in the iPhone 6S. I've got an iPhone 6S Plus, and it is blisteringly fast. So if this is faster than the iPhone, then this is very, very fast. But this is not a button, right? Now on the 6P, is that a button on the fingerprint reader?
That is also not a button. So it's the same type of fingerprint sensor. Google calls it the Nexus Imprint. Use it to lock your phone and unlock your phone, and you can also use it to pay with Android Pay.
So what is your take on the 6P? How is it different?
So obviously the 6P, the 6P is made by Huawei. It's got an aluminum body. The LG 5X is plastic, so not quite of a premium feeling device on the 5X, the smaller model. I really like this aluminum metal. The specs are more or less on par. I believe the 6P has a slightly faster 810 processor and 3 gigabytes RAM. It also costs more. It's got a 5.7-inch screen, but the overall Android experience is the same, and cameras perform virtually identically. There's an 8 megapixel camera on the front, but I think you're going to pick a 6P mainly because of the materials and the larger screen. You're going to pick the 5X because it's more compact and fits better in your pocket. They both have the fingerprint sensor, so that's not really an issue.
Now, I think that the pricing here needs to be specified, because I think that the Nexus 6P is $499, and that is a great price given the fact that both of these prices we're hearing about, $379 for the 5X and $499 for the 6P, those are the prices for the lowest cost version, but the smallest amount of RAM you can get in the 6P is 32 gigs of RAM. How much is the 5X, which does start
storage?
Yeah, storage. How much is the
gigabytes of RAM?
Yeah. How much exactly? Yeah, good point. That would be awesome. The 5X does come in a 32 gigabyte storage model, also a 16 gigabytes, which you don't recommend. But if you were to compare apples to apples here, how much is the 5X with 32 gigs versus the Nexus 6P with 32 gigs?
So you're talking about a $70 difference. I believe the 6P starts at 32 gigabytes for $499, and the Nexus 5X is a 32 gigabyte is $429. So we're talking about a $70 difference. Anyone who picks the 5X is picking it for the size, really. And a lot of people loved the Nexus 5. It was one of the most loved Nexus devices out there. Not everyone wants a big phone, and I'd like to see more of these small phones. I mean, they're not really technically small, but it's small compared to 5.5, 5.7, which is becoming the norm,
Yeah, absolutely. Now, let's get to the point, and this is my last question for you, that everybody really wants to know. So Android fans out there have enormous selection to choose from. There's like the whole range of Samsung devices from LG and all these other companies, all these Chinese companies coming out with really low cost phones, the OnePlus One device. There's so much to choose from out there. Where do these phones fit into the ranking, in your personal opinion, in terms of whether they're way at the top or are they in the middle somewhere? How excited should people be about these devices?
There's obviously a lot happening within the $400 range. You've got the OnePlus 2, you've got, a whole bunch of other devices. I think the reason people anyone picks a Nexus device is mainly because it's a stock Android experience. There's no bloatware. It's not available with any carrier apps. It's sold unlocked, and you're getting a fast, fluid experience. and you're going to get the latest software updates first. That's really important to a lot of Nexus buyers. Now, the fact that there are amazing cameras this year and a fingerprint sensor, that only sweetens the deal, and it's already there. I think these two phones are way ahead of the competition.
Now, of course, as you know, Christina Warren is a co-anchor on Fridays, and she's a huge iPhone fan. She's also pretty knowledgeable about Android devices. Is she having Nexus envy? Because I know you guys work very near each other in the office there.
She's not in the office today, so I don't think she actually hasn't seen the Nexus phones. So I don't know what her impression will be. I know she really liked the Nexus 5, so I have a good feeling that she will really like the 5X. But knowing her, she likes premium materials. She might be swayed by the 6P.
Yeah, she might be.
I'm personally having trouble deciding which one I prefer more. I like premium materials, but I gotta say the 5X is not bad.
Yeah, it sounded to me, I gathered from your reviews that that your preference would be the 5X with the 6P materials.
Yeah, that would be a perfect Nexus. Yeah. That would be the perfect Nexus. Yeah, maybe next year.
Yeah, who knows? And maybe you can like swap out the back or something. That's one of the benefits, supposedly, of Nexus phones, is that you can mess around with them. Raymond Wong is at Mashable.com and on Twitter at RayWongY. Thank you so much for joining us today, Ray.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
More news coming right up, but first I want to talk about Prosper. Well, you know, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Money is good, and sometimes you want to borrow money to launch a business, to sort of rebuild your bathroom, to sort of put solar panels on your house. There's so many great reasons to get a loan. One of the best reasons to get a loan is to pay off high-rate credit cards. That's just a big waste of money. And if you can pay them off and have a lower interest loan from Prosper, then you're going to be way, way ahead. And of course, you know, Prosper is the modern way. It's the Silicon Valley way to borrow money. It's like the Uber or Airbnb for borrowing money. They invented the category, and with Prosper, you can borrow up to $35,000 in as few as 5 days. You can borrow money for anything. You know, it's just, when I go to the prosper.com site, and I recommend that you do this as well, it's really a cool site. You can go there and just see what all the projects are. All the personal data, of course, is totally private and secure, but you can see what people are doing. And you'll see that lots and lots of people are getting out of that crushing credit card debt using Prosper. It's because it's such a great idea. And you can check your low rate instantly without affecting your good credit. Just go to prosper.com/TNT for up to $35,000 in your account in as few as 5 days. Go to prosper.com/TNT. That's prosper.com/TNT. A new survey from Piper Jaffray challenges the conventional wisdom about American teens and how they use social networks. Deepa Seetharaman is a tech reporter for the Wall Street Journal and joins us to talk about it. Welcome to the show, Deepa.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. Now, I'm pretty sure that many people believe that teens prefer Facebook, and if they are not preferring Facebook, they're probably gravitating to something like Snapchat. What does this survey say about the top social network for American teens?
You would think it's Instagram. A third of the teens that were surveyed by Piper Jaffray said Instagram was their most important social network. This is an important distinction. This isn't the only social network that they use, but it's the one that is the most vital to their social life, I guess.
So it was really interesting to me to read in your piece that Twitter finished second here. Twitter, of all social networks, and you know, to me, Twitter is the social network that's used by famous people and journalists to talk about what we're working on. But it turns out that teenagers really are paying attention to Twitter. What's going on there?
I know. That surprised me too. That placement surprised me as well. And I think some of it has to do with the ephemeral nature of Twitter. You know, in the sense it's a little bit like Snapchat, where these tweets come and go in your feed, and they're not permanent, and they're not ordered by an algorithm, and they give you sort of a chance to express yourself, and it's out there. I think that constant motion and that fast-paced nature of the way Twitter works is an attractive sort of feature for teenagers. I think that's one possible explanation. It's the closest and best explanation I have, because to be honest with you, I was a little mystified myself.
It does seem like Facebook or the the companies that Facebook has acquired are eating the internet in general. So, of course, we're just talking about the U.S., we're just talking about teenagers here, and this is one part of the larger puzzle about what's happening in terms of Facebook versus everybody else. But what's interesting to me also, in addition to the just sheer numbers, is the trend lines that you find in all of these social networks. So Twitter is pretty big but declining. Facebook is very big but declining among teenagers. Tumblr is declining. Google Plus is declining. Pinterest is declining. Snapchat is on the rise. So Snapchat is significantly higher usage among American teens than before. And, of course, Instagram is higher. And so is other. So in the other category, there's a huge jump. It looks like it's doubled over, 2 quarters ago. Who is this other that is growing? Any idea?
Great question. Yeah, great question. I don't specifically know what social networks would be in that. My sense, though, that it's chat apps. It's apps like WhatsApp and WhatsApp like Messenger. I think there's a broader trend of people migrating towards these apps because they're personal, because, your friends will see them. They won't, that the reach of the message that you're trying to send is 100%. You will absolutely get the people that you're trying to reach. They may not respond, but that's a totally different sort of issue. But chat apps are just easier to use. And I actually think that's true of Instagram as well. It's why that trend line, if you look at the chart that they've supplied, it's a pretty sharp rise. And in sort of the popularity of Instagram.
Deepa, do you think that other might also include some really specialized networks like Yik Yak, which, by the way, is, I think, horrible. But have you heard much about these sort of smaller location-based apps?
I haven't, and that's a great question, and it's something to look into. I haven't really the apps like Yik Yak haven't actually come up in any of the conversations I've had. I recently went home for this past weekend because it was a big Hindu holiday, which meant I had a sort of captive audience of teenagers in my house, and I asked them all these questions, and nobody mentioned anything but Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, and Snapchat, and Instagram. That was sort of the four that they mentioned.
And my
it was an informal survey.
Yeah.
People in my house, but
Yeah. My informal survey among my nieces who are scattered across the land basically suggests that there is a regional variation as well. So in the Midwest, for example, they tend to be more into Twitter than on the coasts, et cetera. That sort of thing. I guess it all averages nationwide. Now, of course, this is just one data point one data set from one survey. How does Piper Jaffray's data compare with the most recent Pew research?
Yeah, there's a lot of differences. I think the most recent Pew search found, 2 years ago, Pew found that teenagers were getting frustrated with Facebook because their parents were joining and adults were on, and it wasn't a private place anymore where they could just communicate with their friends. It was something where they would be watched. But there was no evidence that they actually left Facebook. Forrester research, same thing. There's no evidence that teenagers are wholesale just abandoning Facebook. I think Facebook is seen as sort of a central portal, which is why I find the Piper Jaffray survey so interesting, because it's not asking about usage patterns, it's asking about values. What do you find to be the most important? There are some inherent limitations with surveys that I guess I should sort of mention now, which is that people often say one thing and do something completely different. And so there could be some mismatch between what Facebook's internal data shows. But, if we're just looking based on the results of the survey, in terms of values, in terms of how teenagers on average actually appreciate and rate their various social networks, it's Instagram. The results are pretty clear.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody really has a great handle on how much time they actually spend on social networks. I think we all spend a lot more than we think we do. Deepa Seetharaman uses social networks and gets paid for it. Don't try this at home, folks. She's a trained professional. You can find her at WSJ.com and on Twitter at @DSeetharaman. Deepa, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, thank you. Amazon filed a lawsuit Friday against people who were allegedly posting fake Amazon reviews for $5 a pop. Jeff John Roberts is a writer at Fortune and joins us now. Welcome to the show, Jeff.
Hi, Mike. Good to see you.
It's good to see you as well. Now, what does Amazon's lawsuit allege exactly?
Well, they say there's this group of people who will charge you $5 to give a glowing review to your product. I don't know if I'm selling my book or a phone or whatever I sell on Amazon, and to induce you to buy it. If I have positive reviews, that'll help. Or to get the positive reviews, I'll buy them. And there's this network of people who apparently will have hundreds of Amazon accounts and will sit there and give you all the 5-star reviews you want.
So I'm curious. It seems like Amazon is going after individuals writing these fake reviews rather than suing the companies that arrange for these fake reviews. Why do you think that Amazon is going straight to these individuals and going after, somebody who's just making $5?
Well, actually, the lawsuit says they've already gone after the company. There was a company called Buy Amazon Reviews, and Amazon sued them in April. But apparently that wasn't good enough. Now they've gone and they've asked for all the usernames. They're suing what are called John Does. It means Amazon doesn't know who they are, but they're asking the court to give them permission to go ahead. And then they're going to go probably to these people's ISPs and find out their identity. The whole thing's kind of weird because it seems like really sort of small time, and you don't normally, file a lawsuit of this scale for such rinky-dinky stuff. But I think Amazon might just be trying to send a message here.
Yeah, it sounds like they really might be doing it for the publicity. We're Amazon, and we're going to go crush these little people who, so we're not going to put up with any monkey business in the reviews, and therefore you can trust Amazon reviews, et cetera. How widespread is this practice, do you think, not just about the $5 per positive review thing, but how much of the reviews on Amazon.com are kind of false for some reason or another? For example, if people's relatives going rushing in and positively reviewing someone's book or whatever, is this does anybody do research on how fake reviews are out there?
No, but that's a good question. I'd like to know, because I think all of us, when we're perusing a site like Amazon, sort of goes, is this true? But also it's sort of human nature. If a friend writes a book or opens a restaurant, you want to give them a hand and help them out. But I guess in this case it's pretty egregious if you're systemically paying people to pump up your product. But I know Amazon's really been strict on this for a while, including banning relatives, and also they have a verified program where you can only leave a review if you've bought the product. But I guess some of this gang has circumvented that and faked shipping addresses to pretend they've bought it. So go figure. I don't know how widespread it is. It's really strange though.
This reminds me a lot of, the late 90s or early 2000s when the RIAA went after individual, college students who were downloading music over the internet, which it seems a little bit more innocent than writing a fake review for money, for sure. But it seems like sort of a similar pattern. And I think you're right, the sending a message. Do you think that Amazon is actually going to find these folks? Or do you think that it's all kind of a dance on the front end and they're just kind of threatening?
No, my sense is Amazon is a very rich, very powerful company with very high-paid lawyers. If it wants to find these people, it will find these people. The question is, will they just go and scare the heck out of them, or will they actually drag them into court and, extract damages from them? My hunch from a PR point of view, Amazon's already got a reputation as a sort of sharp-elbowed place. I think it might be sort of foolish to really crush these people too hard. My hunch, if I was Amazon's lawyers, is I would just get an order telling these people not to do it again. Because also, if they're making their living trying to extract $5 for fake product reviews, I don't think these people are sort of high on the hog. But I don't know. I don't leave fake product reviews. So I guess we'll have to see.
Yeah, it seems to me that $5 is kind of a lot of money, really. If you recall the name of the astroturfing organization that supposedly existed in China to essentially leave positive reviews about the Chinese government all over the internet was called the 50-cent Army. They're being paid only 50 cents. So I guess maybe some of those people gave themselves an upgrade and started charging $5 a pop. The other problem with this, obviously, Jeff, is Amazon would have to, if they in fact did sue individual people, they'd have to demonstrate damages, and that would be a new frontier of legal argument. I don't think there's any precedent for the damages caused by bought positive reviews. How do you demonstrate the damages?
That's a good call. I was wondering about that. And they've gone on sort of a breach to me, which is breach of contract, because the people leaving the reviews are Amazon members, and they've breached Amazon's terms of service. But I mean, who cares? People breach terms of service all the time. Suing them is kind of heavy-handed, and they're also suing under consumer protection law for false and deceitful practices. But again, I mean, it seems so small time. You know, as I described it, it's sort of like taking a sledgehammer to an ant in this case. And yeah, I think you're very right. And the legal issues seem a little tenuous. And what if these people raise First Amendment claims? Amazon seems on a bit of a limb here, but it's working. They've put the word out. They won't tolerate fake reviews. We'll see what happens.
Hopefully somebody will write a book about all this, get into all the nitty-gritty details, post it on Amazon.com, and then hire people to write fake reviews for it. That would be awesome. Jeff John Roberts is at Fortune.com and on Twitter at Jeff John Roberts. Jeff, thanks for joining us.
Thanks a lot, Mike. Talk to you next time.
Bye-bye. New reports reveal that police have successfully used DNA information from Ancestry.com as part of their police investigations, raising privacy concerns about access to such data. Claire Mulder wrote about the news for Popular Science and joins us now. Welcome to the show, Claire.
Great. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on. Appreciate you coming on. Now, can you start out by telling us about the case of filmmaker Michael Usry or Usry? I don't know how to say his last name.
Yeah, I think it's Usry. It's a 1996 case, actually, that they had convicted someone, but there were thoughts that this person wasn't the right convict. So it's kind of been like a controversial case since it was closed in 1996. And the police ended up searching a genetic database, which at the time was publicly available, but was owned by Ancestry.com. And they found a man who was Michael Usry's father, who had actually matched about, I think, 40 out of 41 alleles, which are basically pieces of DNA. And they thought that this was such a close match that they searched through his ancestry or his lineage, looked at his sons, his brothers, other members of his family, and kind of honed in on Usry because they kind of profiled him as someone who they thought could be associated with the murder. He is a filmmaker who makes murder mystery films, and he also had ties to the area where the crime was committed. So based on that, they narrowed down on Usry and actually asked him for his DNA, and he ended up being completely innocent. So he ended up being innocent. However, it really shows that it was really a dead end, but it scared Usry and it scared kind of the community, saying that we submitted this as just like a fun way to get our genetic DNA, and we had no idea that it would be used with authorities.
Yeah, so what's so interesting about this is that it wasn't even his data, right? Like you pointed out, it was his father's data, and the data wasn't submitted directly to Ancestry.com. It was actually to a genealogy foundation that was acquired by Ancestry.com. So this genetic information had been floating out there for a long time, kind of the circuitous path to law enforcement. What kinds of scenarios are people afraid of with this kind of access to genetic information? And, do you think this is a big enough concern for people who are thinking of submitting their DNA for analysis because they're curious? Do you really think this is something to consider, or do you think it's widespread?
So I think the big issue is that originally when Ancestry.com and 23andMe started asking people for their DNA, it was really simply for people to first be able to see where their ancestry was from, how much of Neanderthal they were, or just fun things like that. And then also at the same time to see about their health. Now they have such a huge database. I mean, so many people have submitted their DNA that these databases, which are private right now, are attractive to insurance companies, to biotechnology companies, pharmaceutical companies, and now apparently attractive to authorities as this hugely vast and lucrative area that they can use information from. So I think that it could be of concern. I mean, no one would have thought that you could use these private companies. Usually when the police need to kind of match DNA, they'll search the public DNA forum or the public DNA database. And at this point, they had done that and weren't able to find any matches. So they turned to these private companies. And before that, they weren't able to do that. But now that these companies like Ancestry.com and 23andMe have such a huge amount of data, it's attractive to them, and it's a resource that can be used. And the fact that they've used it in this case, I think this case was such a kind of a CSI kind of.
Wow.
That's what happens when you work at PopSci. So these companies.
Wow. Did you just get attacked in a?
I just got attacked by a drone. That was not planned, I swear.
Wow. A tech news today first.
Drones are dangerous.
So they apparently are. Even me at my cubicle, I'm not safe.
you handle it very well. So let me ask you one more question before you get taken out by another drone. So I would have guessed that it would have been illegal or unconstitutional or something for the police to go find data from people that I didn't even submit the data, the personal data. I'm not a customer of this company, and for them to go through and find it, just grab it. And there are laws around preventing the police from searching the trunk of your car, but they can just search your DNA. It just seems like it would be unlikely that would be legal. What's the laws around? What are the laws around this? Is this just legal, or is there just a vacuum of casework around this, and we just don't know yet?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, in this particular case, actually, the DNA that Usri's father had submitted, he submitted it to this place called Sorensen Molecular Genealogy. And at the time, that wasn't owned by Ancestry.com, and it was available publicly. When Ancestry.com acquired it, they kept it as public information. So technically, at this point, the cops could have used it. It was public information, public knowledge. And right now, there really are no rules. After that incident happened, they actually took down that public database, and now it's completely owned by Ancestry.com, and you can't just see it online. In that case, now, if they wanted to use that sort of database, they would have to go to Ancestry.com or 23andMe directly and ask them, which both companies have acknowledged that the authorities have asked them in several instances for this information, and they have given it up to them, but also let the customers know that their DNA is being watched by authorities. So yeah, I think that's it's a really tricky situation right now where we have these huge databases. Now all of a sudden cops are realizing we can really, use this database. And I think that that's going to be a huge question in the future, whether there will be regulations on this or not.
All right, so we're going to let you go so you can go beat the drone pilot with a stapler. Claire Mulder is at popsci.com and on Twitter at CA Maldarelli. Claire, keep your head on a swivel. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Sounds great. Thanks so much.
Google released a new version of its Waze mapping app for iOS users. Barry Schwartz is the publisher of Search Engine Roundtable and wrote about the news for Search Engine Land. Barry, welcome to the show.
Hi. Welcome. Have to be here.
So glad you're here. Now, you pointed out that Google hasn't updated Waze since they acquired Waze. I don't recall. When did they acquire Waze?
I believe back in 2013, I believe. I forgot the exact date. You want the exact date was probably sometime around...
It's been a couple of years, basically.
Yeah, June 2013, yeah.
What is new in this version of Waze? I've used the old version and frankly find it really frustrating, really complicated, too much going on. Is Google trying to use some of its Google-ness to simplify it?
It definitely looks that way. The new app seems to have taken some of Google's simplistic design attributes. They said in their release notes that they went ahead and optimized the app so it uses a lot less battery consumption. There are fewer taps to actually navigate to certain places, to start your drive, send your location to people, and get directions. Plus, they actually changed the user maps so that they're much easier to notice when there is some type of alert on the way, like if there's a traffic stop or a cop on the way. It's much easier to notice that. Plus, things like reporting. Actually, I'm following this as you go. Reporting issues as you drive makes it easier because they actually color-coded things to make it easier as you drive to use the app. I assume you're not really supposed to use the app while you drive, but they're trying to make it much easier to actually use the app so people want to use it. Whenever I used it in the past, it always crashed on me. It always had some issues. Downloading data took forever. So I primarily use Google Maps when I travel around here to get traffic data. But I'll definitely give this a try as they updated this, I think, sometime last night.
I mean, you can only use one mapping app on a single phone at a time, and it's a little frustrating because I really like Google Maps and I really like Waze. Waze is great because, of course, of all the social features, of all the notifications. It tells you whether something happening on the shoulder, whether the police ahead or whatever. And I really like that sort of total awareness. But then Google Maps is more sophisticated, and so I tend to use Google Maps more than Waze. I don't understand. You've been covering Google for a long time. Do you have any idea why Google wouldn't just fold the social features of Waze into Maps so that we wouldn't have to choose between the two?
So the Google Maps app has been actually using a lot of the Waze data. They've been updating their Google Maps app to include user-generated traffic reports and issues along the road. So they've been doing that, but in more in a Google way, whereas opposed to kind of removing the social aspects. I guess, there are users who don't like the social stuff. They just want to drive to where they need to go to. And there's some people who enjoy reporting and gaming. It's really, in a way, is more of a gamification app. When it comes to driving, you earn points for reporting issues and stuff like that. So I guess to declutter the Google Maps app, they want to keep that separate, while the Waze app has a huge, huge community. And if they go ahead and merge the two, they'll alienate the Google users and alienate the Waze users, and nobody will be happy. So I guess that's the main reason behind that, not folding it.
So it seems like Google's using these two very different audiences to sort of learn from each other and then bring the best features from each app over to the other side. What do you think that Google's going to get out of updating Waze with more googly stuff? Do you think that it'll learn how to, in that process, that it might learn how to make Google Maps a little bit more social, see what works on the other side of the fence?
I don't know. I think if they would have gone social with Google Maps, they would have done it a while ago. It's been, a couple of years already. I think it's more about, it's been a really long time since they actually did a major revamp of the design of the app. There's lingering bugs and battery issues. When using it, always drained the battery. It was a lot of crash issues. So I think people were getting frustrated. So they probably pulled over a couple engineers, said, hey, spend the next couple weeks working on this, pumping it out. And I guess that's how they did it. I don't think it was done because they're trying to experiment with users, but you never know. I can't see that to be the case.
All right. Well, thank you for that report, Barry. Barry Schwartz is at SEOroundtable.com and at rustybrick.com, and also on Twitter at rustybrick. Barry, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
All right. We got some crazy news for you coming right up, but first I want to talk about Gazelle. Folks, the clock is ticking. These bad boys right here, the new Nexi, came out today. And for less than 24 hours now, Google is going to be offering you, if you have one of these phones, if you buy one of these, Project Fi, which is a really cool MVNO. And, you want to do that. And if you're on the fence, you're thinking, well, I don't know. I've got a phone right now. I don't know why. Do I want to spend the money, et cetera? Here's what you do. You go to Gazelle, GAZELLE.com, and put in your current old phone. Just click on Sell Smarts, the blue arrow on the front page, and go in there and enter in what phone it is, and then you indicate which carrier it's on, or if it's unlocked, and you go in there and indicate the condition. It's in great condition. It's in pretty bad shape. It's a so-so condition, and then they're going to give you a price, and then you can look at that money that they're going to send you for your old phone and compare it with the amount of money you want to spend for your new Nexus device. And you'll see, I'm almost certain that you're going to see that it's not going to be that expensive for you to upgrade to the new Nexus phones, the one of your choice. And so, again, if you want to get in on that Project Fi, you need to make this decision today, basically, because this is it. After that, you can eventually get Project Fi again in the future at some unknown date in the future, but it's open to everybody for a 24-hour period. So Gazelle is going to help you make that decision, and they'll give you the price, and that price is locked in. So you don't have to send in the phone and get paid before. You can send in the phone later. 3 weeks, 4 weeks, you can send it in and still get the same price you were quoted today. So you got to check it out. Gazelle is the place to sell your device to upgrade to the new phones. Give new life to used electronics. Trade in for cash or buy certified pre-owned from Gazelle. Visit Gazelle.com today, and we thank Gazelle for their support of Tech News Today. A chicken named Betty. Yes, that's the first time I've ever started a news report with a chicken named Betty. But yes, a chicken named Betty has been given control of the Twitter account of an Australian fast food chain called Chicken Treat. Betty has a computer in her coop and a keyboard on the ground, and when she walks on it or pecks at it, whatever she types is tweeted, along with the hashtag chicken tweet. As with any employee at Google or Microsoft, Betty is incentivized with free food, which when they sprinkle on the keyboard, encourages her to type. And what's interesting about this, too, there's an old saying that if you had an infinite number of monkeys that eventually typed Shakespeare, everybody's been waiting for this chicken to eventually type a word in the English language, and she finally did it. Within the last 24 hours, I think, she accidentally typed, well, presumably accidentally, typed the word bum. So, yeah, so there it is.
I don't see it. I'm looking at the thread. I'm looking at her her tweets right now, and I do not see bum. I do see oop somewhere, and cop with a K.
Yeah.
But I will say, and I have owned chickens, this strikes me as really messy.
Yeah.
Because chickens don't, they're not very selective about their bathroom habits. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, exactly. They don't have to pay the chicken very much, but they got to pay somebody to clean the keyboard once in a while. So that's the expensive part of this whole operation, if you're thinking about doing this for your company. Well, our TNT fan of the day is Kyle A. in Tacoma, Washington, who posted this picture on Twitter. He wrote, "Nothing like some test out and TNT. I'd much rather listen to Mike Elgan over Rob Tracy, and I thank you for that, and sorry, Rob Tracy. Show us how you watch or listen to TNT. Just record a video or take a picture of yourself or your setup and post it on Instagram, Google+, Twitter, or Facebook, and use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT so we can find it." I should point out that Rob Tracy, by the way, he does instructional videos, so that's a IT training scenario that he's preferring us over, and we appreciate that. All right. Well, Lindsey Turrentine, what are you working on these days, and where can people find you on social networks?
Well, you can find me primarily on Twitter at Turrentine, and then over at CNET.com, we are continuing to do a lot of fun work with our smart home. We talked about that a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Some really cool progress and experiments going on right now, and we're writing all about it at CNET.com/smart-home.
Does anybody get to sleep in the smart home?
That is the $1 million question. We test everything in that home. So while it's not a place, it's a workplace primarily, and there are people in and out of it all day. We may have to test a special mattress someday.
Yeah, who knows? You got to sleep in it. All right, Lindsey, well, thank you so much for co-anchoring, and we'll see you next week.
All right, bye, Mike.
Bye-bye. Let us know what's on your mind. Send email to tnt@twit.tv or call 260-TNT-SHOW. That's 260-868-7469. You can subscribe to Tech News Today on iTunes. You can also leave a review there if you want to. You can also choose your favorite way to subscribe at twit.tv/TNT. You can watch us live every weekday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1700 UTC at twit.tv/live. And you can follow us on Twitter at Tech News Today TV. You can follow me personally at elgan.com. Don't miss our other news show, Tech News Tonight at 4 p.m. Pacific every weeknight. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the Tech News Today. The show is produced by Jason Cleanthus and edited by Victor Bognot. My name is Mike Elgan. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.